Hi, welcome to Something to Talk About. I'm Linda McNamee. Tonight we will be talking about donating life or organ tissue donation. But before we begin, I would like to thank my crew. We have Colleen Moore and JT Marchand, who are volunteers here, just like most of the people that you see around here. And I also have Corey McNeil and Mike Duval, who are staff members here, and they help me out, and if it weren't for them, the show would not be possible, so thank you very much. I'd also like to thank my husband Paul, who's staying home with Gwyneth and Evan tonight for Daddy Date Night, and I hope that everything's going well, and Gwyneth, have a good night, and I'll see you in the morning. If you have any questions about tonight's show, or definitely feel free to call in. We are live, and the number is 781-270-9199, so give us a call. If you would prefer, we also have an email address. If you'd like to email me about anything you see on tonight's show, or if you have ideas, comments, suggestions about tonight's show or future shows or past shows, you can email me at talk@bcattv.org. And now I would like to introduce my guest, Don Davis, who is a volunteer and an organ donor yourself, and an ambassador for New England Organ Bank. Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
I have a bunch of questions that, I might forget. We might go on tangents, so I might refer to my list once in a while. But if you have something to add, that would be great. So can you tell me a little bit about your background, where you grew up, family, where you went to school, and what made you interested in organ donation?
Certainly. I was raised in Billerica, next town over. I have 4 sisters, 2 brothers. I'm currently engaged to a wonderful woman, Christine Skinner. She has a lovely daughter, Katie. I'm a father of 2 and a grandfather of 1.
Wow.
I went to Billerica High. Out of high school, I worked for Nixdorf Computers for a year. Mm-hmm. Then I joined the service. And one of my first tours of duty was in the Honor Guard, stationed out of Alexandria, Virginia, but we did jobs at the White House, the Pentagon, wow. 2 million soldier, and a lot of places like that. It was very interesting. Then after that, I did a tour in Hawaii, mm-hmm. and that's when I started running backwards out in Hawaii. We were very active as kids. Back then, we didn't have all the technology we have today, so we were outside all the time. Okay. Our indication when the lights went out, you came in.
And when the street lights go on, time to come home.
That was the official timing. Mm-hmm. So that's what we did with that. And I became interested in organ donor probably when I was around 18.
Okay.
I don't think I had all the information that we have today with today's social media and everything else. There's more training and more words that are getting out there.
Okay.
I think like everyone, I thought it was the right thing to do. So on my license, I became an organ donor, not having all the information that we have today that's available to us.
Yeah, usually it's like, yeah, okay, why not? I'm not going to need it, so.
Correct.
Okay, great. Why did you become a volunteer with New England Organ Bank?
In 2007, my brother came up from Texas with his family, his wife and 3 boys. He was sick in the airport, and then we all got calls saying that he's very sick. He doesn't want to go to the hospital. What's going on? It sounded like dehydration. We weren't sure, but we were all saying the same thing. You go in the emergency room, or we're going to take you. They rushed him to the emergency room, and they decided then that his kidneys were down to 10%.
Wow.
He was
no history before this?
A little history, yes. He had a little history before that. So he had to go on dialysis right away.
Wow.
So my brother's family stayed with us in Reading. My brother went on dialysis in Andover. And then his family moved back to Texas so they continue school. And so in the process of trying to get all the answers that we needed, I learned more about the New England Organ Bank.
Okay.
So obviously now we're directly related to the situation.
You got the personal.
Absolutely.
The personal edge. Okay.
Christine and I have been volunteers for I can't tell you how many years for one aspect or another. So we thought this would be a good program to volunteer. So I did contact the New England Organ Bank, let them know what was going on, and I did some training and became a volunteer with the New England Organ Bank. Great organization.
Excellent. Now, I've also been told that you are an ambassador to the Registry of Motor Vehicles.
Correct.
Sounds pretty impressive. What does an ambassador do? And are there ambassadors to other government agencies or just like the RMV?
Well, the ambassador to the registry, there is a form right now that people have to check yes or no on the form when they go for their license.
Okay.
A lot of people do not know about it, so sometimes they'll come up there and they're not sure to check yes or no, and then when they come to the registry, to the window, they still have to check either yes or no or it doesn't move forward. As an ambassador, as a volunteer ambassador, we are connected with the registry. We go in and we answer questions that the staff may have.
Like on a regular basis? Oh, the staff.
Yep,
Okay,
the staff.
so-
And this is a minimum once a month.
Okay.
So we'll call the registry, say if they need any pamphlets or anything else, and we'll let them know, is it all right to come in during this time? Because they're busy.
Stay strong.
So we'll come in,
Forte.
we'll see if they
And
need
so
anything on there.
You get a hold of us if you need anything.
Okay. Sorry to interrupt
That's
you,
all right.
but we do have a phone
Hello?
call. We have Vin on the line. Vin, can you hear us? Vin? Do you have a question for Dawn? Is he still there?
Hello?
Hi. Do you have a question for us? Welcome to Something to
I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Vince Farino. Actually, I've had a program on Big Cat is Vince's favorite films. And in fact, we have a daughter. Her name is Alicia Martin. And she is like 47 years old. She's had a life of problems in terms of her kidneys in particular, but also liver. She had a kidney transplant when she was 20 years old, and she was adopted. We had to find the mother, so we did, and the mother gave the kidney, but then she lost that in about five years, or maybe less than that. Then, so the kidney was then failing. She had been getting cyclosporin. She was sort of a small girl, so that kidney failed, and she needed a kidney again. And she wound up getting a liver and a kidney because the cyclosporin clobbered the liver. So she got a liver and a kidney, and she's been living with that for like 25 years. And then it turns out that now that kidney is failing. The liver is okay, thank God. She got a double transplant in her liver and kidney, first in New England. And then she, so anyway, she is now on dialysis. And we were hoping to avoid that. We called a lot of people. I contacted thousands of people, try to give her a kidney. She's type O negative, and that's a difficult type. And apparently, so she's on the list now, but that can be years and years. She has 4 children, believe it or not. They told her she couldn't have any, and she has 4 children. She has twin boys and 2 girls on either end. And so she has 4 children. She works, and everything. She's a very brave person, but now she needs a live donor, to get her out of this situation. So I thought I'd call in. Corey McNeil called me and said to, call in. Okay. So that's what I'm doing.
Well, thank you very much, Ben, and I hope that, she finds a donor that's compatible very soon.
Okay. Can I put some of the TV sound up a little bit?
You can. You might get a little feedback, that's all.
Okay, no, it's on, and then I've got it on pretty low.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Vin, and hopefully your questions will be answered later on tonight's show. But I would like to get back to some of Dawn's story. Thank you for calling.
Okay, you're welcome.
Would you like me to answer that now?
So yeah, what are your thoughts on Vin's situation?
Vin, hang strong there. I know it's got to be difficult for you and your family, so hang in there. You're doing the right thing by asking questions. The New England Organ Bank pioneered a program that's now national. It's called the United Network of Organ Sharing, and what it is, it's called the Paired Kidney Exchange Program. So what happens is, let's say that no one in your family is compatible to your daughter, but yet you want to donate a kidney. you go into this paired program, and what will happen, and they'll search for someone else that's looking for a kidney that is compatible to your daughter. Then someone from your family or your friends can actually donate a kidney to someone on the other side, and they in turn donate to your daughter. So that is a program that's now national. So I encourage you to go ahead and look into that. According to the New York Times, there has been one exchange that was a result of one Good Samaritan coming into the hospital and donating a kidney that affected 30 kidneys. So they had 60 people that were really affected by this one Good Samaritan. So Vin, hang in there. Take a look at the paired kidney exchange program. I wish you luck. I think that would be the best direction to go. And also check out neob.org. And so good luck with that, Vin. Hang strong.
Is there a connection to this program on neob.org? Can you find more information?
Yeah, you can definitely find more information on that, actually. And always use Google, too. Go ahead and Google the paired kidney exchange, and I think you're going to find a lot of information that will be very helpful.
Great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right. Little tangent there.
Yeah, it's good.
Which is great. Okay. As Vin suggested, losing my train of thought. Are most donations local, or are a lot of them national?
Well, that depends. There's several criteria that come into play when you're talking local.
Okay.
The distance between the patient and the recipient, that could come into play.
Okay.
The severity of the recipient, they may be the next on the line, but they may have some kind of medical issue right now that doesn't make it feasible at the moment.
Okay.
Also, there's some organs that can remain out of the body, like the heart and the lung, 4 to 6 hours.
Okay.
So there's a time period there.
Okay.
The liver's 12 hours, and then of
okay.
course the kidney can go up to 36 hours.
Oh,
So with
wow,
those
okay.
time frames, you can see that the delivery time from to the
Yeah,
recipient.
you can't really go cross country with a heart transplant.
It's no, it's very difficult.
Okay. How is because I'm thinking you donated an organ to your brother.
Correct.
You knew him.
Yes.
How is the list for organ transplants prioritized based on the need, and if you knew somebody? Like, you knew your brother, so he got the surgery right away.
Correct.
Is that because he was also at the top of the list, or?
Well, this is
does-
I donated right directly to him.
Okay.
So, like in Vin's case, also that someone could say, "I'm going to step. I want to donate a kidney to his daughter."
Okay.
So that's what happened in my brother's case.
Okay.
But I still had to be compatible. If I was
Okay.
incompatible, then everyone else in my family, if they were incompatible, then the option we would have would be that paired kidney exchange.
Okay, so there's still even though you're blood related and genetically similar, there's still a possibility that you would not be compatible?
Absolutely, and there's someone that may be not even related that is compatible, more compatible. So that's why this kidney paired exchange is such a great program. There's always hope.
Now, how do you measure compatibility? Is it just blood type, or is
This
it?
blood type, this body type, the size,
Okay.
and there's some other criteria that go on.
So,
with
like,
that.
I would not be eligible to get like a 5-year-old kid's kidney.
I'm not sure 100% on that. how
Okay,
that
but
would-
they
it-
try finding similar weight,
Exactly.
gender.
and give it to
build.
the person that most likely would be successful transplant.
Okay. Or the other way around, they don't want to give a 50-year-old's kidney to a small child, probably.
Yeah, they want to
most
match
likely.
it to right. So that's be one. They'll look at the match the most likely.
Okay.
And also, how critical the recipient is,
Okay.
and again the distance between the recipient and the donor.
Okay. Well, we got a lot of my questions answered already. So statistically, what is do you know like a percentage of how many organ donors are related versus not related?
No, I don't have that information.
But it probably depends on the organ, doesn't it? Like kidney donors, you can, donate a kidney and still be okay. You can't really donate a liver and.
Yeah, you can do part of liver. There is some things that you could do. As
really?
a living, yes, as a living donor, you can donate a kidney, one lung, and the partial liver.
Oh, wow.
Correct.
Didn't know the body was that flexible.
Yes. And yeah, right now there's 117,000 people that are waiting for organ transplants. So if you look at Gillette
Okay.
Stadium, 68,000 people capacity, Fenway Park is 37,000. You fill those two, there's still more people that need organs than what's available.
Oh, wow.
So there's a long list.
There's a long list. Speaking of Gillette Stadium and Fenway Park, you got your name in lights not too long ago. Well,
Okay.
a few years. JT, can we see a slide of Don's name? Don's fandom. Fenway Park. The big green monster. There we go. Now that's very impressive. And that's like right around, that's like next week.
That was in
Anniversary
2009,
next week.
correct?
Yeah, but
Yes.
April 17th.
Yeah.
How did you go about getting your brother's name up there?
Well, it was interesting. My brother's kidneys failed in 2007. They were failing. That was Christmas time.
Now, is that when he was at the airport? That
Correct.
First trip?
Yep.
Okay.
And then so we went in, that time period came into 2008. So in
Okay.
2008, I was qualified to run the Boston Marathon, and I was going to run it
Wow.
that April.
Okay.
All the procedures going in place, I was determined to be a match. They came, we received the funding, everything else was working out, so they offered a transplant date 5 days before the Boston Marathon. So, of course.
You're not running.
Oh, no, definitely not, of course not. We definitely accepted that, we went through the transplant, and then after that, just being competitive, we wanted to get back on our feet.
Okay.
So 4 or 5 days after our transplant, we walked our first mile together.
Oh,
so that
wow.
first
Okay.
mile started getting other things in, and then it was always interesting because I didn't run Boston, and that was going to be my last Boston Marathon.
Oh,
My fiance had made a shirt up saying the last one and everything else. I was getting older, getting tired.
Gonna have to change the date.
So we decided there was no more marathons, but after the transplant and not being able to run that last one, we decided why don't we try to run one.
Really?
So
Okay.
1 year after the transplant, my fiance Christine, my brother and I ran the Boston Marathon together.
Wow.
So, and what happened with Fenway is because we're trying to promote organ and tissue donation for like Van, the more we get the word out, the more people can be educated and more people get helped.
Okay.
I contacted the Red Sox, Fenway Park, to see if my brother could possibly throw out the first pitch
Oh, cool.
so that we could
I
promote.
didn't even know you could do that.
Well, there's a
But
list
yeah,
you call up,
okay.
and I guess they do it ahead of time. And anyways, it didn't work out, but they did say this is what we could do. And as, of course, April is National Donate Life Month,
Okay.
so it's nice to get these programs all to put out there so people could do it. And so we got a tour of Fenway, and they actually put that
Wow.
on there, so it was pretty neat. Very
Okay.
nice.
I do. What is the significance of April being Donate Life Month? Is it because it's like spring and all the flowers are blooming, or is there like, why April?
Well, prior to 2003, there was a week of, it was called National Organ and Tissue Week. That was
Okay.
prior to 2003. So
Okay.
that was one block on the calendar that was to promote it.
Okay.
Then in 2003, Donate Life America, in support of the Health and Human Resources Secretary, which is Tommy Thompson,
Okay.
they initiated the program to make April Donate Life Month.
Oh, okay.
So the whole month then became National
Neat.
Donate Life Month.
Cool.
And every year the president does a proclamation that mentions that Donate Life is now the whole month of April, in which we try to get the word out there. And it's been really, I think we've really moved along.
Wow. Yeah. Well, that seems really impressive that we are, progressing. The surgeries are becoming a lot not simpler, but more common, and technology is advancing, so it's kind of working its way along too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, you mentioned Donate Life New England. Is that the same as New England Organ Bank?
No, well, Donate Life New England
Okay.
is it's comprised of 3 federally organ procurement agencies. Those are the
Okay.
New England Organ Bank,
Okay.
that is Life Choice Services,
Okay.
and then there is also the Center for Donation and Transplant in the Connecticut Eye Bank.
Oh,
So those are the
okay.
3 that work within New England
Okay.
to make it easy for all the people 18 and older to register in a secured manner and make it easy for them to do so.
So you have to be 18 to become an organ donor.
18 and older,
Okay.
and otherwise you have to have a consent.
Okay. Because you can get your license at like 16 and a half now, 17?
Correct. Yeah, I don't know
Okay.
the actually age, but anything under 18 you have to have the consent.
Okay.
Now, New England Organ Bank is the oldest organ procurement agency in the country.
Okay.
And with that, New England Organ Bank services the 6 New England states, all at least part, which has a population of 11 million people.
Wow.
With that, they also service 160 acute hospitals and 12 transplant centers.
Okay. Now, are all the transplant centers located at the hospital, or?
No,
Oh,
not to my knowledge. I
Okay.
better check on that. I don't think.
I would have thought that.
Yeah.
Okay. So they are separate entities. It
I-
sounds like they're separate
Yeah,
entities.
I can check that. I know.
Now, is there like a national network that Donate Life New England and New England Organ Bank works with to communicate with other agencies around? Actually, before you answer that question, and before I finish asking it, I'm told we have yet another call. Yay! We have Sarah on the line. Sarah, can you hear us okay?
I can, yes, thank you.
And do you have a question for Dawn?
I do. I'm really impressed with this story, but I was wondering, what was the recovery process like after the transplant?
Good question, Sarah. Thanks for calling in. We did the transplant on a Monday, and we were back on our feet the same day. They really want you up and walking out of your hospital bed that same day. So we did do that. We were in the hospital. We had the transplant on the Monday, and we were out on a Friday. So that period was a short period. And depending on what you do for work, Sarah, some people that do labor, it's going to take longer for them to get back into the workforce, 6 weeks or so, or even longer. But someone that has a desk job can be back a little earlier. We did the transplant on a Monday, and then my fiance Christine and I did the Boston Marathon Expo that following Sunday.
Oh, wow.
So
like
it was a week. It was kind of tight, but as you can see, that it depends on what you do for a living, how much you go on. Other factors that probably come to play in is your conditioning before the transplant. So obviously, you as a donor, you're healthy, and now all of a sudden they're taking an organ from you. So you're going to have some recovery time during that period.
It's major surgery.
Major surgery, and what I would advise people, I may have tried to come back a little too fast, being in the competitive nature. I highly recommend take your time. I had great support from Christine and her daughter Katie. With that support, you can ease your way back into it. Unfortunately, some other people might not have that support mechanism that you need, so there might be things that you have to do on your own. But I highly recommend anybody take your time, as much time as you need to recover fully, so that you make sure that you have a good recovery period.
Great, thank you. And are you experiencing any residual health impact from making that donation today, or do you feel like the same way?
No, I have no effects whatsoever. I'm back into the active lifestyle that
Running marathons.
running marathons. Doing all sorts of activity. There is a period that you have to wait to do all that because things are tight. So you do really give yourself as much time as possible before you get into the high impact. There's many stories out there where people 3 months after transplants are doing things. Each individual person is different. So don't read a story and think that that's something you can do. Listen to your body as much as possible. Listen to your doctors. And again, the better shape you are prior to a transplant is probably the better, quicker recovery period you're going to have.
Great, thank you.
Right.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks, Sarah. Okay, she asked a couple of questions that spawned a couple of additional questions. So this one surgery basically had 2 patients because you had, you donated a kidney, your brother received one. After the surgery, you mentioned your recovery time. What kind of recovery process did your brother have to go through? Did he have to retrain his body to do anything? Did he have to go to follow-up appointments, any follow-up surgeries?
Absolutely.
What happens on the recipient's side?
The recipient, a lot of times right now, they're going on anti-suppressant drugs. So what happens is anti-rejection drugs, that these drugs help the body make it the organ like it's their own organ. Okay. However, with that, there's a lot of trial and error. They have to make sure they get the balance of everything just right. So my brother did have to continually go through follow-ups, but as the follow-ups were normal, the time period between each follow-ups got longer and longer.
Okay.
So him and his family seen a light at the end of the tunnel, which was nice because they knew that the transplant was successful.
Okay.
They knew that the anti-rejection drugs were working, and they saw that the duration go longer and longer to the point where it's like once a year or so.
Excellent.
And what's amazing right now, back in 2008, when he had the transplant, we were thinking that the drugs were forever. Not so many in the morning, so many at night. You had to take each drug at a certain time, but now they've actually taken them off some of the drugs.
Wow, that's
so
great news.
Technology is changing, and it's nice.
So another question that Sarah had asked was your recovery process. Have you had to change any of your activities?
No, I didn't
You know,
change anything. Nope.
okay.
I think I came back too fast.
I'm
but
just wondering if you're limited in any of your activities now because of,
absolutely none.
Okay.
Nope, none whatsoever.
so you haven't had any ill effects?
No, any surgery, there's always a risk in any surgery.
Oh, yeah.
So we always take that in mind, but there was nothing whatsoever on that. The worst pain was when they took the tape off from the surgery. Everything else was
Staple
fine.
gun.
It was,
Now, okay, back to becoming an organ donor. It is available on your license. What if you don't have a license? Is there some way that you can sign up to be a registered donor?
absolutely. A lot of people that don't drive, and I just had this question Sunday. I did a table in Newton.
Okay.
It was the Live a Love a 5K. The race director was Jess Rossman. So thank you, Jess, for letting us set up a table. And one lady actually came up to me and said, I don't have a license. I don't drive. What can I do? A lot of people apply for their state ID.
Okay, so there is room on that.
They can do that, and what we really encourage everyone to do, no matter if you have it on your license, your state ID, it's very important that people let their family and their loved ones know their intention.
Okay.
And why that's very important is that any death is shocking, it's hard, but one that's unexpected is a lot more stressful on the families. And then to find out that somebody is going to be donating an organ and you don't know about it, it makes it so much easier for the family when they get the call saying so-and-so is a donor, and you know the family knows about it. It's very helpful for all the families. So we highly recommend whether you do it through NEOB, which is the registry, whether you do it on your driver's license or your state ID, please make sure that you let your family, your loved ones know that that's your intentions.
Okay. Now, can you change your mind?
Absolutely. If you go onto the, same thing, if you go onto the
Okay.
website, you have a part on there where you can go ahead and change your mind.
Okay.
Say you do not want to do it. And if you don't want to do it on the registry, you can also wait till you renew your license. And on your relicense, you'll see that also that'll ask you if you want to take your name off the organ.
Okay. It's been so long since I've renewed my license, I don't remember. I had another question at some point. When you become an organ donor, you can either you donate organ and tissue.
Correct.
Sometimes it's to a recipient, but other times it's for research, or it potentially could be for research. Can you designate when you sign up to be an organ donor that where you want to go?
The New England Organ Bank does not do the research. So when you sign up with the New England Organ Bank, you are signing up to save a life, to enhance a life. That's what
Okay.
you're doing in that.
And that's through the license.
That's through the New England Organ Bank, the license, etc.
okay.
What happens is, like in anything, is once a person passes away and the medical team comes in to do the assessment, if for some reason they find that the organs are not compatible, they're not able to donate,
Okay.
the team, the transplant team, the medical team will approach the family knowing that the person wants to be a donor,
Okay.
and then they will ask them if they want to donate it to research.
Okay, so like if somebody passes away due to Alzheimer's or something, then maybe use the body or elements for Alzheimer's research.
Well, for whatever,
point,
for
or
whatever
just using that
reason,
as an example.
yeah, for whatever reason it is
Okay.
not compatible, then the family will be asked if they want to do it for
Okay.
research. And there's some people, like there was a football player, the Patriots, also some people actually dedicate a part of their body for research.
Oh, okay.
So that's something they do, but that's the New England Organ Bank is to save the lives.
Okay, excellent. That's good to know. Because I signed up like when I first got my license, which is a long time ago, and I thought I remembered a choice, and I don't remember it since in the past 20-something years. So I was wondering what the situation was
Well,
at this
thank
point.
you for signing up. That was nice.
So hopefully you won't need it. You had mentioned organ and tissue. What kind of tissues are donatable?
The tissues that the New England Bank will recover are the skin, the cornea, the bone, the tendons, heart valves, and blood vessels.
Oh,
So those
okay.
are all that with the patient that donates them do not have to be kept on to ventilation.
Okay.
And those that will enhance the lives of people that maybe had burn victims with the skin.
Oh,
So
okay.
these lives are enhanced. Through these process of donation, last year alone, there was 28,000 transplants done, and over 1 million recipients that received tissues to enhance their quality of life.
Wow.
and depending on the preservation of these tissues, these can be preserved for years.
Oh, they can be.
So
Okay,
it's
so they
not
can really be banked.
Correct, exactly.
Okay.
So it doesn't have to be that window that we're talking about with the heart and the lungs, 4 to 6 hours,
okay.
the liver 12.
Like
and
maybe frozen or something?
correct.
Okay.
There's a process that they use to do that.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's pretty cool. Now, you mentioned bone. Is that the same as bone marrow?
No, bone marrow is a totally different program.
Okay.
If people want to find out more about the bone marrow program, they can research Dana-Fiber,
Okay.
or I think there's another program. I think it's to be the match program, but I would highly recommend
Okay.
Google that. And one of
Okay.
them is definitely Dana-Fiber to research the bone marrow.
Okay. Are there costs involved in becoming an organ donor?
As a deceased donor, no, there is no cost whatsoever, so that is all taken care of once you make that decision.
Okay. But when you donated your kidney to your brother, did insurance cover most of that, or was he responsible, or did you have to out of pocket expenses?
Yeah, there is out-of-pocket expenses, such as you may miss work, and
Okay.
then of course, then as you get into some type of insurance, that the longer you're out, the less you may get paid.
Okay.
There may be travel costs associated with it. For example, that if the recipient, in my brother's case, he was from Texas, I'm from Massachusetts. He wanted me to go to Texas. I was very comfortable with the staff and the hospitals here
Okay.
in New England. So at one point, somebody has to do the travel.
Yeah.
So that's
Somebody's
what
got to buy the plane ticket.
Exactly. That is
Okay.
something that's not covered. However, in
Okay.
2012, now on your taxes,
Okay.
there is the human organ donation expense. So people could claim that up to $10,000 for this type of expense that's covered,
Wow.
which includes hotel, might be meal, might be gas.
Okay.
So there are expenses. If someone doesn't have insurance, the transplant team will work with them to get the Medicare, whatever else they can do, to give them the best avenue to get as much covered as possible.
Okay. Wow. They really make it easy for you now.
Yes.
Are there, okay. How are recipients prioritized? Like if someone someone was on dialysis, how are they prioritized into they need a kidney within the next week, or they can wait a while, or?
It's how the critical condition of the patient. That's
Okay.
probably one of the biggest things that is, how critical
Okay.
that person is. Then as organs become available, we have those factors again. How far is that organ that's going to be from the patient, the blood type? Then of course, if that patient is next on the list or whatever, is the patient healthy enough to receive the organ? So there's
Okay.
other factors that could be changing as we move along with that.
Okay. Now, sometimes you hear in the news, sometimes I just, kind of thought of this. Does fame or fortune change the priority of an organ donor?
Absolutely
Like,
not.
Politics involved.
No, what happens if you look at it, how many of the famous people have passed away because they didn't receive an organ?
Okay.
Tom Brady's mentor just passed away. That was a kidney. There's so many more people have passed away that did not, that they're famous, their organs failed.
Okay. Now, obviously, there's communication between you and your brother.
Correct.
If you were
He
to,
owes me.
He owes you big time.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there ever any communication between donors who are not related? A donor recipient. If it's an anonymous or are there anonymous donations, or is there always communication?
Absolutely. Well, you can imagine that if you donated a loved one's organs, some people want to be They want to be in contact with the recipient.
Okay.
So the New England Organ Bank has a aftercare program. This program is established to keep that lines of communication open if the two
Okay.
parties want to meet.
Okay.
So as long as the two parties want to meet, the New England Organ Bank's aftercare program will be the liaison for that program,
Okay.
which they can meet at a meeting place within the New England Organ Bank, or they can meet outside.
Okay.
And the staff is very well trained, so they can keep a dialogue going. So it might be very uncomfortable. People might know what to say.
Yeah.
They want to get together and they want to keep that. So these people are trained to help move that along. And then at what
Okay.
point they don't need to be involved, and the two parties can talk. On the other side of the coin, there may be good Samaritans that just want to donate a kidney, but do not want to be involved as much. They want to do that, and they just want a piece.
Like in Vin's case, if his daughter does find a compatible donor, that person might just say, "Hey, I want to participate, what was that program called?
That is the Paired Kidney
Paired
Exchange
Kidney
Program.
Exchange Program. So if they participate in that, they might just say, okay, I'm doing my Good Samaritan thing, and I don't necessarily
Yeah,
need
there's some
contact.
generic information that the recipient will receive, so they
Okay.
will know some basic information, but as far as communication, it will only happen if the two parties want it to happen.
Okay, and to the level that those two parties agree upon.
Correct.
Too. So like if they don't want to meet face to face and go out for coffee, they could, send letters or pictures or whatever.
Yeah, that'll all,
through
yep,
New
they,
England. Okay.
exactly.
Okay. All I can think of is when I was drafting my questions is the movie Return to Me. Did you ever see that movie?
I did.
Okay, how much is Hollywood made? Is that like a typical donor story, recipient story?
There is no scientific proof that people get that characteristic of the recipient and all,
Okay.
but there's many stories where people will say that I never liked this type of food before the transplant, and now all of a sudden I like this type of food.
Okay.
So without the scientific proof, the stories are out there that this may
Anecdotal
be
evidence.
a characteristic of the donor.
Okay. It also probably depends on which organ gets donated. too.
True. Right, yes.
Are there any restrictions of becoming an organ donor? Like age? Can you be too young? Well, you already mentioned too young. Can you ever be too old to become an organ donor? Or health issues, like if you have certain allergies or if you're on medication for high blood pressure or depression. Are there limitations for becoming a donor?
To my knowledge, there isn't. What happens is all the determination is made at the time of death.
Okay.
The medical team again will go in and they'll do an evaluation, and then they'll make that determination. That as far as age, no. And there has been cancer patients that have actually been donors.
Really?
Yes, so you can see that there is nothing there, except when they go to test whatever organ is to be donated, they'll make that determination at that time if
Okay.
it is.
Because I'm thinking, like, if the cancer patient went through chemotherapy, I would have thought that would
They'll do
rule
the
them out.
organs individually, they'll test them, and then they'll decide what is still usable.
That is really cool.
It is, especially for those people that really want to donate. So never say never. Don't not register thinking that you're too old. Something. Do the registration and then let the course take action.
Now, with April being Donate Life Month, are there any upcoming events that the organization's doing to promote trying to get volunteers?
Absolutely. The New England Bank sends out a Bang email list. Hospitals, churches, schools, everybody sometimes will come in and they'll ask if we have anybody that can come and give a presentation. So the New England Bank will send out an email to all the volunteers saying, is there anybody available for the college here, the hospital here, that could set up a
Yeah,
table?
you said you were just in Newton
Correct,
last
yep.
week?
They'll give us a window of time and they'll see if the volunteers will go down and they'll want to set up. They'll work sometimes with the hospital, so as the hospital has their table, a representative from New England Organ Bank will come down and we'll be along with them. Some of the common ones right now is the Boston Marathon's coming up. A lot of times the runners will wear the shirts.
Okay.
Say Donate Life on them. So when you see that, that's the, whether the recipient, family, friend,
Cheer
or anyone
extra
else.
loud.
Absolutely. Christine and I, thanks to Comcast, we position ourselves at mile 8, and
Okay.
we cheer all the runners on our club, and of course for Donate Life and any charity we see going by. It really lifts their spirits, especially at the mile 8.
Yeah, I've volunteered for 3 years, and I did first aid at the Boston Marathon, and we were at mile 22.7, 22.4. So after Heartbreak Hill, they come down the hill and then go on
Onto the
Beacon
train,
Street,
yeah.
and we were right at the bottom where you turn onto Beacon Street.
They needed you then.
So yeah, and it was so cool, seeing the shirts, and also, it was also cool that some of the runners had their name, so you'd
Yes.
actually be able to cheer specifically for Don.
Well,
It just
it's
it was-
interesting. On April 19th also is New England is promoting a Blue and Green Day. So April 19th, I believe, is a Friday. So they're
Okay.
trying to get as many people as possible to wear blue and green for that day.
What's the significance of blue and green?
That's the colors of the New England Organ Bank if you look
I'm
at the
staring
colors.
right at your hat.
Thanks.
Okay. So now you had brought a couple other pictures with you. Now you mentioned your competitive spirit and your brother owing you. Now I think there's a picture of the two of you still in hospital gowns. Is there like a story behind that you are willing to share with us? And let's see
Yeah.
if we can get that photo up there.
That
There
was-
you go.
Okay, that was taken, I believe it was a day after the transplant. my brother was in the next room next to me, and so what we tried to do is they want us up and walking. So every day we'd go up and we walk around the nurses' station.
Okay.
So each time we try to walk further and further.
Okay.
So that was our goal, and this one lap we were taking, as you see, he's actually ahead of me right in this picture. I was taking, and we were just doing the laps around the nurses' station.
Okay. A little bit faster every
Little
time.
faster.
Be
It's a
careful.
shuffle.
not to-
That's careful shuffle though. Remember, not overdoing
okay.
it.
Yep. Hopefully you weren't attached to any IVs or anything.
Well, I was pulling his back a little, but he still had the lead.
Oh, okay. What other photos do we have there? You have Dan hooked up to a couple of machines on dialysis. There we go. Oh, he doesn't look too happy.
No, that Dan was going to, I think it was 3 days a week he had to go on dialysis. So
Wow.
for these people that go on dialysis, that's their week, that's their life cycle. What happens is once he's done with dialysis, he goes home and he feels good, he starts getting there, and then as he gets closer to his next session, he doesn't feel as well. So
Okay.
that was his life cycle going on there.
Wow.
They do the best they can, they let him watch videos and everything else, and so...
But you're still hooked up.
Exactly, and now I guess
yeah.
a lot of people can do it at home. There's cruise ships that have dialysis machines, so people can actually move up and about. So
Wow.
the breakthroughs are amazing.
Now is 3 times a week average for? do you
I
know?
really, I don't know,
Okay,
honestly.
I'm
I'm
just-
sorry, I don't have that answer.
No, that's okay. Why should you? You didn't have to go through
Yeah.
it. Okay, we have picture of you and Chris pre-surgery. Is it Christine?
Christine, yes,
Christine.
Christine. Yep. Yep. That
And she's wearing a Boston Marathon jacket. You go, girl.
She was a wonderful support, and like I say, if anybody that's out there, the best support you can give the people that are undergoing it, it's amazing. It's really what's going to
Wow.
help you out. Both the recipient and donor, and Christine and Katie were fantastic. We had many people in and out of our house during that period. The day before my transplant, Christine had organized a surprise run.
Oh,
So
wow.
all of a sudden, the people knocking on my door, and I just thought they were running by the house as usual, and maybe they wanted a drink of water. They were all coming in, and we all went for a run. So it was the day beforehand,
Oh, wow.
a little bit beforehand, that we did a joint
Okay.
run together. So
That's
then
really
she came with me for the
cool.
transplant.
Excellent. So she's went to Texas with you.
No, we did the transplant here in
Oh,
Mass General.
okay.
My brother flew up from there.
Okay.
Yep, and he stayed with us.
Okay, I thought you had mentioned you went down to Texas.
No, he wanted us to, but again, it was
Oh.
determined we're going to do the transplant
Oh,
here.
okay. Well, Mass General's the place to go.
Yes. Yeah.
And you've been published. You're famous. You were in the Guinness Book of World Records more than once.
Correct.
What made you want to do that?
It was in the early 80s when I was out in Hawaii. I was
Okay.
training for a triathlon, and my favorite event was the run, but I was getting burnt out.
Okay. Now, is the triathlon the same as the Ironman?
Yeah, Ironman is the name of a triathlon.
Oh, okay.
So there's a bike, swim, and run,
Okay.
and the more the distance you have to accumulate all your miles in there so the body's ready for the events.
Okay.
And I was getting burnt out on my runs, which was my favorite event. So one day after my run, it was about a 10-mile run. I ran backwards the last mile. I fell, but when I got up and turned around and finished it, I felt great. And the next day we went out and I did 5 miles backwards with my running buddies at under
Did
8.
they go backwards too?
They did not, no. But we did it under an 8-minute pace. So someone said, "Why don't you look at the records?" And back then we looked at it, and then I went to the University of Hawaii and I ran the mile backwards at 6 minutes and 7 seconds.
Okay.
And then that course was more challenges. And anyone that does distance running always try to push themselves. That's the
Okay.
bad part of the competitiveness. So you push and push and push. So then it was, what about a marathon backwards? So then I ran a marathon backwards, 4
Wow.
hours, 20 minutes. And then
That's still really good marathon time.
it was. I was a lot younger and lighter. And then I did a
Wow.
walk, 24-hour walk backwards for the March of Dimes. So that brought in some more of the charity.
Okay.
So that was for 82.95 miles.
Okay, so it's kind of sounds accidental that you started doing the whole
It
backwards
was.
thing,
But
and then it just kind of clicked.
it's an awesome relief because it balances the muscle, and if we're running all the time, and I do an hour on the treadmill several times a week backwards, it's so comfortable, and then I turn around and I do my forward run. And
Oh, okay. Now, just out of curiosity, I actually was having this conversation with someone earlier, totally unrelated to subject. What are the measurements in a triathlon?
distances?
Distances, yeah.
There's several differences. There's short ones. They have one now that I think it's called 70.5, and then they have the full one. So
Because we were talking about the Ironman competition.
okay, the Ironman is that starts out with a 2-mile swim, then you do a
Okay.
112-mile bike ride, then you do a 26-mile run.
Okay, we knew it was the marathon, the 26 miles, but we're like, how long do they have to ride? How far do they have to ride the
And
bike or swim?
yeah, the smaller ones now, there's a lot of people get into. It's It's a 13-mile run. It's like a mile swim, and it's a 50-mile bike ride.
Okay. So I think you've pretty much answered all my questions. Do you have any more? Can't even read his writing. So let's take a look at some of those other photos. Now, I think you sent me, I don't know if they have it, a shot of your running team.
Correct.
Do you guys have that picture somewhere?
That's
not
a
the
group
one
of people that when the New England Organ Bank was looking for volunteers also, as you can see, they all wearing the shirts. So this is basically people that believe in organ and tissue donation, and they wear the shirts during their runs to help promote it. The one with the other running club, Christine's been a volunteer with the BAA. She's been a captain for the volunteer packet stuffing for 6 years.
Okay.
So like a lot of runners, we get active in that, and so we volunteer our time to help packet the race numbers in the packet.
Oh, okay.
So you have 26,000
Packet
runners.
jackets
So over the weekend, a couple weeks before.
26,000?
26,000.
Those are registered. Those
are registered,
there
correct.
Are a bunch of other.
The number might be higher this year, but when we were doing it, it was around there. So they need volunteers to make the packet. They stuff the packet, and they take care of you. They give you a jacket, and you stay active. And then as long as everything's in good standing each year, they'll send you out an email, see if you want to do it again this year. And this year we'll be passing out the shirts at the expo.
Oh,
so,
excellent.
Yeah, as a runner, we participate in the expo, plus we volunteer.
Now, do you have to be a runner or an athlete to become a volunteer for?
Absolutely not.
Good
No, but that seems to be the trend because that's the people that find it. But it might be a friend or something. So if you're going there, would you like to be it? And it's interesting because then you get to see what's going on behind the scenes and have more of an understanding if you go to the race. So you don't have to be a runner as long as you volunteer. They'll take some information and they'll get you into the program.
Excellent. Now, I know we were interrupted back in the beginning about your brother's story and your story. Did you finish that? I'm sorry, I completely lost the train of thought, but we still have maybe about 10 minutes left, so I'm just, 5-10 minutes.
Yeah, I'll wrap it up as fast as I can because it was very
no, take your time.
Well,
we got plenty of time.
Well, as we get back into it, it was 2007 it went. His kidneys failed. He stayed with us. He had to go on dialysis. In the meantime, he had to find a donor.
Okay.
So his family stayed with us. They were from Texas, 3 boys in school. So at that point in time, the boys had to go back to school, so they had to go back to Texas. Dan stayed with Christine and Kate and I while he was on dialysis in Andover.
Okay.
So when the dialysis could be coordinated back in Texas, Dan went back to Texas to resume dialysis.
Okay.
And then again, at this point, he did not have a donor per se.
Okay.
So when it was determined that I was going to be, when I was a match, then we had to go through all the logistics about where and when.
Did you volunteer, or did he kind of say, "Hey, Don"?
Nope, absolutely no. And then these things, everybody steps up. When you have a family in crisis like this, what's nice about a great large family that we have and friends is everybody, calls were coming in from California, everywhere else. Everybody, I'll be tested. Dan was going down to be checked with the doctors, and my brother Rick, myself, and my sister Diane were going down with him to give him support. So while we're down there, they said, why don't you all get tested? So we all got tested during that period, and it was determined that I was the best match at the time.
Okay.
So that's how they got rolling. So Dan came back up for the transplant. His family came back up with him. They stayed again with Christine, Kate, and I. And then my sister-in-law, Linda, did homeschooling with the boys so they could finish schooling while Dan and I was doing the recovery.
And how old were the boys again?
Back then, well, he's in college now, so I would say I'm going to give the age of a very close, so it's 5 years, maybe 4.
So high school level?
Yeah, they're all in school,
Okay.
yep. High school and under,
Okay.
3 of them, yep.
And from that point on, everything, just kind of fell into place, or?
Correct, yep. When Dan was stable, when everything was going good, and then his periods for the checking was longer, so it was
Okay.
comfortable, and they were fine with it. Then again, the coordination was done so that he could get tested back down in Texas when he was down there. So
Okay.
then when he went through that.
And they made the date for the surgery. You said it was just a couple days before the marathon.
Correct.
5 days. 5
Yeah.
days before
Yeah,
the marathon.
right about that.
Rough before the marathon.
Correct.
Now, how do they determine the date? Is it Dan's need? Is it when they have the staff available at the hospital? How do they coordinate all of that?
I'm really not sure. I don't think it was the need as much because I don't think at that time
He was critical.
we
Was that
saw
critical?
anything that was critical because, again, he was stable and he was getting
Okay.
dialysis. I think it might have been what was available at the time.
Okay.
And, of course, you never want to not take something
Yeah,
that's available
right.
with everything. So that wasn't even a question. Once
Yeah.
a date was provided to us, we absolutely took it.
Okay.
Great work by the staff of Mass Journal, the people in Texas. Family support was amazing. So everybody involved that just did an outstanding job.
Now, is Mass General like the only hospital in the Boston area that
No,
does it,
there's
or-
several other ones that do it. You may be hearing more about the face transplants at Brigham Women's.
Yeah, I read an article the other day that I don't know if it was the first face transplant recipient, but he's getting married now.
Yeah. So it's
Wow.
the technology is just amazing.
I don't know if personally I could go through that. Have somebody else's face.
Everybody's different, so
Yeah.
it depends, and that's why we're not convincing people to do something,
Yeah.
but if they know with avenue to help them make that decision and to do it,
Yeah.
everybody's different on these.
And it also depends on your circumstances before going into this,
Correct, yeah, absolutely.
What do you want to, do you want to have somebody else's face, or do you want to,
And
the
some-
lesser of two evils?
And some
type
people
thing?
may look at it that way, others may look at I'm going to be a better person, or not better, but I'm going to be improvement. If you'll notice with the tissue and organ, it's enhancing the lives.
Okay.
So whatever that enhancement may be, whether it's actually the quality, the self-esteem, or whatever else is there, so that's the whole purpose of the program. It's to enhance the quality of life.
Okay. Now, if somebody wanted to become a volunteer, we talked about becoming an organ donor, but if they wanted to start volunteering for Donate Life, how would they go about it?
They can go on neob.org
Okay.
and go on the volunteer page, submit some information.
Okay.
Personally, when I volunteered and I went to a training session with them, they told us about, they can sit down and they do a whole guiding program.
Okay.
They also have a week where you can go into like a speaker's bureau where someone will come in and they'll teach you some of the things that they did so you can get the key points across.
Okay.
So the leadership at New England Organ Bank is outstanding. We got Jen, we got Matt, we got Laura. So the support, and Kelly, the support I get to do help is just amazing. Great.
Where is New England Organ Bank located? Where would you go for this training?
This is in Waltham.
Okay.
They just moved recently, so they got a new facility in Waltham, which is also the Tissue Recovery Center that they do.
And they're like monthly programs, or?
There's different programs that come out. The
Okay.
volunteer program, you will get an email saying that we're having this one here. And at least once a month, Jen, who does the volunteer services, will send out an email that, remember, this is going to be a month for the volunteer meeting. And you can do call-ins for those people that may have children or something
Okay.
else and you really want to be active.
Skype.
Yep, so you stay on the phone, you can do a conference call.
Okay.
They'll go through something, and at one time you can chime in, and then you can give feedback both ways. And then it's nice to get some of that face-to-face, so eventually, once in a while, go to the meetings. And
Okay. And different volunteer positions could be setting up those tables at various events.
correct.
That you talked about.
Yep,
What are
we-
some of the other ways of volunteering?
We do what we call tables. We call them tables because
Okay.
typically we really bring in a table or one set up and we put
Set up a
information on
table.
it, something on there. So the tables are done at high schools, health fairs, community fairs, civics groups.
Okay.
There's talks that are done, so the hospital might want to talk, a college might want to talk. Shows like this are very good. You may be reaching out and say, "Is there anyone that we want to promote organ donation? Is there someone that come in and give a speak?" And then there's fundraising that's done.
Okay.
There's social media that's
What
done.
kind of fundraisers do they do? Like
Well, for one of the programs they have
auctions
is
or?
there is the Falmouth Road Race right now.
Okay.
So a lot of the organizations like the Boston Marathon, the BAA, Boston Athletic
Okay.
Association, they give charities so many numbers, race numbers,
Okay.
and the charities then raise money. So
Okay.
people that come into the program realize that, okay, to run this race, I'm going to pick up this charity number and I'll raise funds. So it helps the charity. New England Organ Bank now has one for the Falmouth Road Race.
Okay.
These sell out, so the numbers are very limited. If you want to run the Falmouth Road Race and you want to help support fundraise for New England Organ Bank, you can contact Laura Dempsey at the New England Organ Bank, who's a coordinator. She's a runner and she's a coordinator of the program. So that's
Oh,
one of the other methods
okay.
that they use.
Excellent. Wow. I learned a lot tonight.
Well, thank you
I think
for
my head
having
is
us.
really to explode. Got a couple minutes left. Is there anything that we did not touch upon or that we didn't complete a thought or anything that you wanted to say?
No, I think most importantly is all the people that are waiting. I have a friend that's waiting on a heart transplant. Another friend that was one of the ones that had one of the original heart transplants years ago. It's a tough situation for all of them, so it's really the support that they get. Reach out for the gentleman like Van. Reach out, do your research. When my brother's kidneys had failed, I was on the phone, I was on the internet. We were all doing, my fiancée Christine, we were all doing everything we could do to try to get as much information as possible to make the decisions and to make it easier. So I would say definitely hang in there, do the research, talk with people, go to different shows, look at different things that are on the web.
Okay.
And really do your research. And New England Organ Bank's a great resource, and there's many more out there, and they're great leadership, so they're there to help and support you.
And I'm sure if you had any questions on some of the research, because not everything you read on the internet is true. So talking to somebody or contacting New England Organ Bank, they'd be able to point you in the right direction and maybe give you a list of approved websites or suggested websites or.
Actually, I would definitely, you have to consider the source, because you do want to make sure you have the best information possible.
Just because it's on the internet doesn't
That's
make
true,
it true.
right. And if you see it out there, double check, because like you mentioned, is there any restrictions on donating? If someone says yes, next thing you know, that person takes that information, says I'm not going to register because so-and-so said no. Do the research from a reputable source, get the information, then make the choice that you find that's necessary.
Cross-check.
And the biggest thing is people that need to make sure that they let their loved ones know that they are an organ tissue donor.
Okay. And that's, on a related note also, the whole get your paperwork in order.
Exactly.
The DNR and, definitely. Now, do you have to have your family know this in writing?
It doesn't hurt. I know when I went for the transplant, I had everything signed, so whoever was going to be my proxy, all they had to do is turn over the paperwork, because there's a lot of stories out there of what some of the situations come, very difficult situation, to make any decisions under those circumstances is very difficult. It's nice to have all that stuff saying this is what my loved one wanted, so that it's easier for you as the donor family, it's easier for the siblings, it's easier for everyone involved, as long as it's in writing and everybody knows about it.
Right.
So you made your legal decision, now it's also let the family be in on it that that's what you want to do.
It's on your license.
It's on your license.
All right. Well, thank you very, very much for coming. And hopefully after you run the Boston Marathon, you can come back and tell us all about it.
I want to thank you. I want to thank your staff, everyone else that volunteers to help us spread the word on organ and tissue donation.
Thank you
I
very
really
much.
appreciate it. Thank you very
Thanks.
much.
And our next program will be talking about recycling in Burlington. So what you can, what you can't recycle, different methods, what happens on Thursday mornings. So hopefully you will tune in and find out. Once again, my name is Linda McNamee, and thank you for joining us for Something to Talk About. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me at talk@bcattv.org. Have a great night. Thanks.